The armory deck of the Stellar Dominion hummed with the usual pre-deployment energy. Warriors from a dozen species checked their plasma rifles, energy lances, and graviton disruptors. The air smelled of ozone and weapon lubricant. In the corner, however, stood a human who drew amused glances and barely concealed laughter. Kalen adjusted the strap on his vest, checking the magazines in his pouches with practiced efficiency. The rifle in his hands looked primitive compared to the gleaming energy weapons surrounding him. It was an M4 carbine, a weapon that fired solid metal projectiles using controlled chemical explosions. By galactic standards, it was laughably outdated. "Is that a kinetic weapon?" asked Thras, a massive Kryn warrior whose scales gleamed like polished emeralds. He towered over Kalen, his four arms crossed in what looked like genuine confusion. "I thought humans had moved past throwing rocks at their enemies." A ripple of laughter spread through the gathered warriors. Kalen smiled politely, continuing his weapons check. "It throws very small, very fast rocks," he replied simply. Vash, the cub leader and tactical coordinator for the mission, approached with her datapad. Her feline features were arranged in what Kalen had learned to recognize as concern. The Feliner species valued practicality above all else, and she had been skeptical when the human mercenary joined their team. "Kalen," she said quietly, her tail swishing with agitation. The mission briefing indicated heavy resistance. Heavily armored Drakkar raiders. "Are you certain your primitive weapon will be sufficient?" Kalen looked up at her, his brown eyes calm. "I've used this rifle in over 40 combat deployments, Vash. It's never let me down. But it fires metal slugs," interjected a Vorten technician, his tentacles gesturing dismissively. "Our enemies have shields that can deflect energy weapons. What makes you think ancient projectiles will fare better?" "Because shields are designed to stop energy," Kalen said, patting his rifle. "Different problem, different solution." The laughter grew louder. Even Vash's whiskers twitched in what might have been amusement. The human's logic seemed backward. If shields could stop advanced weapons, how would primitive ones succeed? The deployment alarm sounded, cutting short the mockery. Warriors grabbed their weapons and filed toward the drop ships. Kalen fell in line, his M4 held with the casual familiarity of someone who had carried it across countless battlefields. The drop was rough. The Stellar Dominion had intercepted a Drakkar raiding party attempting to steal medical supplies from a colony world. The colony had no military presence, only civilians and children. The raiders had to be stopped before they reached the settlement. The drop ships hit the rocky canyon floor with jarring impacts. Ramps dropped, and the mixed species strike team deployed in formation. Vash took point, her scanning equipment painting targets on everyone's helmet displays. 12 hostiles, canyon ahead, she reported crisply. Heavy armor confirmed. Weapons free on my mark. The team advanced. Kalen moved with them, his movements economical and precise. The other warriors still carried their energy weapons with confidence, certain that their superior technology would carry the day. The Drakkar appeared like shadows made solid. Their armor was matte black, designed to absorb energy and redistribute it harmlessly. They were professional raiders, well-equipped and experienced. They opened fire immediately. Energy bolts streaked through the canyon. The strike team returned fire, their plasma rifles and laser cannons lighting up the twilight. Brilliant colors painted the rock walls as energy met energy. But the Drakkar armor lived up to its reputation. The bolts splashed harmlessly across the black surfaces, dissipating into heat that made the air shimmer. "Shields are holding." Thras roared in frustration, his four arms working for different weapons simultaneously. None of them made a difference. The Drakkar advanced, confident behind their technological superiority. Their return fire was precise and deadly. One Vorten warrior went down, his tentacles twitching as his shields failed. Another took cover, shouting about power cell depletion. Vash's ears flattened against her skull. "Fall back. Reformat." The sharp crack of Kalen's M4 cut through the chaos. It was a different sound entirely from the hums and whooshes of energy weapons. It was percussion and violence, echoing off the canyon walls like thunder. 3 rapid shots. Then 3 more .2 Drakkar raiders stumbled. Then they fell. The battlefield seemed to freeze for half a heartbeat. Every eye turned to the human and his primitive rifle. Kalen had dropped to one knee behind a boulder, his rifle tucked firmly against his shoulder. His breathing was controlled, his movements smooth. He fired again, controlled bursts, each one deliberate. Another raider went down, then another. What? Frost began. The rounds punched straight through their armor, Kalen said calmly, acquiring his next target. No energy to absorb, just kinetic force and a very hard metal core. He fired again. The 5.56 millimeters rounds traveled at nearly 1,000 meters per second. The Drakkar armor, designed to diffuse energy, offered no resistance to solid matter traveling at such velocity. The tungsten core penetrators went through the black plating like it wasn't even there. Davash's tactical mind grasped the situation immediately. All units, focus fire to suppress. Let the human engage. The team adapted instantly. Energy weapons laid down covering fire, forcing the Drakkar to keep their heads down. In that suppression, Kalen worked methodically. Each shot was aimed, each trigger pulled deliberate. He changed magazines with practiced speed, the muscle memory of thousands of hours of training evident in every movement. The Drakkar, suddenly vulnerable for the first time in years, tried to adapt. They spread out, took better cover. But Kalen had been fighting thinking enemies his entire career. He anticipated their movements, fired through concealment, and used angles they hadn't expected. 0.5 minutes into the engagement, 8 of the 12 raiders were down. The remaining 4 attempted to retreat. Don't let them reach their ship, Vash ordered. Kalen was already moving. He advanced with his team, his rifle ready. When one raider popped up to provide covering fire for his companions, Kalen's M4 barked twice. The raider collapsed. The final 3 surrendered. The canyon fell silent except for the ringing echoes of gunfire and the labored breathing of warriors. Smoke drifted lazily upward. The strike team stood among the fallen Drakkar, many still processing what they had witnessed. Thras approached Kalen slowly, his emerald scales dulled with rock dust. The massive Kryn warrior looked at the human's rifle with new eyes. "I owe you an apology," he said, his voice subdued. "I did not understand." Kalen ejected his magazine, checked the remaining rounds, and reloaded. Different problems need different solutions. Energy weapons are excellent for most situations. But when you need to punch through something solid, sometimes the old ways work best. Vash walked over, her tail still now, her feline features arranged in what Kalen had learned to recognize as respect. "Your weapon is not primitive," she said quietly. "We were primitive for not understanding its purpose." The human smiled, slinging his rifle. "Every tool has its place. The M4 has been serving humans for over 300 years, across dozens of worlds. There's a reason we keep it around." The Vorten technician approached hesitantly. "Could you teach us about kinetic weapons? Our databases classify them as obsolete technology." "Your databases need updating," Kalen replied. "Come on. We need to secure those prisoners and check on the colony. I'll give you a full lecture on ballistics later." As the team moved out, the laughter from earlier was notably absent. In its place was a thoughtful silence and occasional glances at the rifle that had turned the tide of battle. The M4 carbine, ancient by galactic standards, had proven that sometimes the simplest answer is the right one. And the human who carried it had shown that wisdom lies not in having the most advanced technology, but in understanding which tool fits which job.